So far in this course, we've focused on how to define and fill spaces and how to use individual units called motifs in freeform looping. This unit explores ways to add texture and dimension. Like most things in looping, these techniques are pretty much just variations on stuff you already know. We'll just be taking those familiar techniques and pushing the boundaries now. For this demonstration, I've created a substrate by looping around a bit of braided cotton cord with some Irish waxed linen, trapping the tails as I stitched, and then zipping it up with some cinching to form a sort of net that I can anchor to. To begin the layered looping, I anchored a thread and stitched across the net, trapping tails as I worked across. At the end of the row, I stroked those stitches up so that the lags would be easier to find as I stitched the next row. Then I stitched into those lags, adding stitches to add fullness. If you can't quite see exactly where I inserted the needle, don't worry, you're not alone. Often in these videos, I can't quite see exactly where to insert the needle with the camera in between my bifocals and the thread. But that's okay. It's freeform and the structure is very stable. The intention is what is really important, and the intention here is to stitch back and forth, building a little tab that comes out from the surface of that net. Tabs and panels have all kinds of applications beyond freeform in looping. For example, you can work a flat panel tab to make a flap or button closure for a bag. You can make a pocket by anchoring the thread on each side as you work looping back and forth. In this application, you can add or skip stitches as you like to make that tab straight or curvy, pointy on one end or rounded on the end, or whatever shape you like. You can finish with a bunch of adds and you end up with an edge ruffled like a lettuce leaf. Rotate the pieces you work or not. Use flip turns or not. Use a return thread or a whipped return like you learned in lesson 1 or not. Whip the edges of the tab to beef them up or not. Try using a wrapped thread or beefy big lag as the border, anchoring around the border as you turn. Once you start experimenting with tab variations, you'll just keep coming up with more options to try. In this unit, though, we're focusing on texture and layers. So instead of one single tab, we'll work one tab after another, all pretty close together. Think of them like layers of shingles that overlap, or like multiple petticoats that support an outer garment and give it volume. For this demonstration, I've alternated layers of orange and pink thread to make it maybe a little easier for you to distinguish between the layers. I'll address color and other choices used in the finished project in this lesson's design unit. But first, let me show you a couple more texture variations using these tabs in layered effects. After making a tab, you can stitch with plain running stitches back down the center of the tab and then pull the thread tight to gather that element. Then anchor the thread to keep the gathers from pulling out. If the tab is wide enough, you may be able to use more than one gathering thread. And you can get a lot of different effects by changing the path the gathering thread takes. For example, you can go straight from the tip to the base, you can go at an angle, you can go along the edge. There are lots of options. You can even just tack down the end of a tab to create a dimensional element that loops up above the surface of the piece. In the next unit, you'll learn some other textural stitching options. Then in the design unit that follows, you'll see how this piece and the next demonstration project were completed.